Good evening. Welcome to the Yorktown Central School District Board of Education meeting for February 10th, 2020. Can I have a motion to go into executive session for the matters pertaining to employment history of particular individuals and contractual negotiations?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Motion to go back into public session?
So moved.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Good evening. Welcome to the Yorktown Central School District Board of Education meeting for February 10th, 2020. Can we please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, led by Leah and Jason, and then remain standing for a moment of silence for our armed forces and those in our community who have lost loved ones?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Good evening. Looks like we have some great Mohansic students here to visit us tonight, Dr.
Yes,
Hatter.
I see all of my first grade friends in the audience. Hello, everyone. It is so great to see you all here tonight. So Mohansic has been doing some wonderful, wonderful Ycsd learning, always rooted in literature. And we have our first graders here this evening to present to us Finding Your Future with Fables. And I think you're going to absolutely love the videos. You're going to absolutely love the work that our first grade students have done. I just want to take a moment to acknowledge the Mohansic faculty here this evening. I see many in our first grade team here this evening. Thank you all for coming out and for all the work that you're doing with our children in the classrooms. At this point, I'd like to invite Mrs. Roper and Mrs. Berry to the podium to begin the presentation.
Thank you. Good evening, Dr. Hatter, Mrs. O'Shea, Mr. Cole, Mrs. Carbone, Mr. Mignani, and board trustees. Good evening, parents, relatives, and Mohansic staff. Thank you very much for being here and for supporting our students and our wonderful Mohansic school. We value and appreciate your involvement and dedication. We are thrilled to be here tonight to share our good news with you. With me is an amazing group of first graders who are representing their classmates and are very excited to share their learning with you. Mrs. Christine Roper, our library media specialist, will continue this wonderful presentation.
Good evening. I'm very excited to be here tonight with some of Mohansic's first graders and their teachers as they share the valuable lessons they have learned from reading fables. These stories offered our students numerous opportunities for growth and learning. They were also inspired to creatively think about ways to help women and girls be the best they can be when making job and/or career choices. First graders embarked upon a multi-layered Ycsd project to get involved in this timely global issue in a meaningful way. Students did extensive work with fables in their classrooms. Upon visiting the library, classes reviewed the important parts of a fable and looked more closely at the tale of the Maid and the Milk Pail. A discussion was held about what the milkmaid might have felt doing this job. The children also used math to figure out the distance it might have taken her to reach her destination. We then engaged in some brief simulations of her experiences and used our results to inform the next part of the project. Students followed the design process to create a new container for the milkmaid to do her job more effectively. They followed their plans, tested, and made modifications when necessary. Next, first graders explored other possible job and/or career choices for the milkmaid in case she wanted to embark upon a future change of career. In order to investigate the options, students used Google virtual reality goggles to see real-life examples of women in all types of jobs and careers. They also read a book called ABC, What Can She Be? By Sugar Snap Studio and Jesse Ford to continue gathering job and career-related ideas. Finally, they selected the new job or career they felt might be best for the milkmaid and wrote about their choices. In addition, during art classes, they designed an outfit or uniform they thought she would need on her first day at the new job. The United Nations Sustainable Goal number 5, gender equality, helped to inform and guide our work, reminding us how important it is to continue to support and empower both our male and female students to choose a future career path that will bring them the most joy. None of this great work would be possible without the support of our administration, school board, and all of my colleagues. We are very fortunate to have such a great team. Enjoy the presentation.
We have been reading stories in our classrooms called fables. Can you guess what makes a fable special? Well, fables have morals. Morals are lessons to help people live their best lives. Fables also have characters that are usually animals, can solve problems, and act like humans. Did you know that Aesop is the man who wrote many of these fables? Wow, he must have been a busy guy to write so many of these important stories. Fables have already helped us in many ways. We have learned to be curious. If we pay attention to the morals, we might notice some ways to help others. It seemed like the Maid and the Milk Pail would be a good fable for us to start finding ways to help.
We were curious about the milkmaid's job. Did you know she spilled all her milk on the way to the market? What would it be like to walk with a full pail of milk on your head to a market? That didn't seem too easy. We wanted to try out the milkmaid's job to see how she felt during this job. If we could understand how she felt, maybe we could help make her job a little easier somehow. Watch these short videos. You will see what it was like for me when I tried to walk with our model pail on my head. By trying out the milkmaid's job, we got to feel what it was like to be in her shoes. Listen carefully to this video as I talk about how I would feel if I had the milkmaid's job.
So you're saying that the milk pail would come off of your head and you just took one step and you wouldn't be able to sell milk? Oh, so you think our little model is still even a little bit easier than what it would be like with the real milk pail? How did it feel? How did our milk pail feel on top of your head? Feel when milk pail fell off your head?
We wanted to know how far the market might be from home. We knew that math could help us. Our feet were measuring tools. We measured the foot of a first grader. Then we counted how many feet the market counting by tens made it easier. We put cards down to show how far it was. After our work, we asked if there was a better way for the milkmaid to get milk safely to the market.
Help was on the way. This was our time to help the milkmaids and to be engineers too. We drew plans for new containers that will keep the milk safe and make the milkmaid's job a little easier. This picture shows different types of materials that we worked with to create our designs.
Thank you.
You would be amazed to see all of the different designs for better containers in each of our classes. There were so many creative solutions to the milkmaid's problem. We realized it was important to keep weight balanced and the milk protected. Some of us used materials that were more flexible, and some of us decided to use materials that were harder and gave the containers more support. No matter which materials we used, we felt confident that our designs would help make the milkmaid's job easier. Isn't that a great backpack idea? I'm sure carrying the milk pail will be much more comfortable now.
I used string to keep the pail from falling off the milkmaid's head when she walks. I cover the for the pail keeps the milk inside. I don't want her to lose all her milk as she walks along the path. If she can sell the milk at the market, she will make money for her family. To help your family.
You can see I worked carefully on my design to make sure the milkmaid's pail would be very tight on her head. However, I also wanted to make sure the milkmaid would feel good by the time she reached the market. Listen to my video to hear the important things I added to my design. I made sure I thought about how the milkmaid might be feeling after her long and tiring walk to the market.
We followed the design process when we were planning our new inventions for the milkmaid. It was important for our drawings to be very clear and detailed. We also had to label our designs. This helped us to create our designs following our plans. When our designs were complete, we were able to test them on models. This was important because we got to see if our designs worked or if we needed to make any improvements. Listen carefully to my classmate's video about her improvement to her design.
The design process isn't easy. In fact, it can be very hard. Practice makes perfect. You should always tell yourself or your classmates not to give up. The more you practice, the better you can get at engineering. Engineers are always looking for ways to solve problems.
After we created new and better inventions for the milkmaid, we began getting curious again. What if the milkmaid wanted to find out about other jobs she might be interested in but had never tried before. We used special goggles to help us see many jobs she might never have thought of doing before. Everyone should be able to learn more about a job that's interesting and to give it a try. If you work hard, you can be anyone you want. In the library, read a book called ABC, What Can She Be? This book gave us many ideas for jobs the milkmaid might be interested in trying but had never thought of doing before. We chose a new job we thought the milkmaid might want to try and wrote about why we thought it was a good job for her. Our writing also included what she would need to learn for the job and what she would wear on her first day of the job.
In the art room, we worked on designing clothing that the milkmaid would wear on her first day at the new job. We know how important it is to look your best when you are starting a new job. Many of the new jobs that were chosen for the milkmaid need special types of clothing. We paid close attention to these details. Finally, you may have heard about the big football game last Sunday. The game had many exciting commercials. We will show some in just a moment. They were exciting because they reminded us there are many jobs in the world that may be interesting to girls and women. Everyone should try the job they think will make them happy, no matter what type of job it might be. We hope you enjoyed our presentation and would like to share some of our inventions with you.
I remember loving football from day one. I wrote this a long time ago. I don't know how old I was. I hope someday I will be on a real football team. I'm Katie Sowers, offensive assistant coach for the San Francisco 49ers. I always wanted to be a coach. My dad was a coach. I never saw an opportunity in football because I'd never seen a female coach before. People tell me that people aren't ready to have a woman lead, but these guys have been learning from women their whole lives. Moms, grandmas, teachers. We have all these assumptions about what women do in life and what men do. I'm glad my daughter's old enough to see this and understand how significant it is. I'm not trying to be the best female coach. I'm trying to be the best coach. All it takes is one. All it takes is one, and then it opens the door for something.
Is there enough space in space for women?
Who wrote that? Are people really still asking that question? Operation Make Space for Women is ready for liftoff. So Roger, the is the opposite of a problem. There is so much space up here. Well, I could have told you that. When we make space for women, we make space for everyone. One tweet equals $1 to girls who code. What does this button do? Eject.
We would invite you to stop over so that the students can share with you some of their inventions.
Wow, that was absolutely terrific. Well done.
We lost Anthony.
That sure is. So I'm going to ask the boys and girls to go back over to their benches, and yes, we'll all resume up here at the dais.
Anthony, return to your seat, please.
So I just want to tell you how impressed I am with that presentation. That presentation was phenomenal. I love the way you tied Ycsd into the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, specifically Goal 5. But what I was really impressed by, boys and girls, you're amazing readers. Amazing readers. You did something that is not easy to do. You took a microphone, you stood up, and you read and you spoke in front of a group full of adults, and that's not easy to do, and you did a great job at that. And I saw a lot of proud parents in the audience wondering, how did our children get this big already? And thank you so much, parents in the audience, for bringing your children out this evening. I know it's not easy on a Monday to bring the children out. Thank you so much for doing this. It's so important for us. It reminds us of our why. Why do we do what we do? Your children are that reminder. So I appreciate you sharing them with us. I appreciate you entrusting them to us to educate them. And students, what I will tell you is I'm going to write you all a special letter. I'm going to mail it to your homes. And I'm going to talk about the fire drill, and I'll talk about Simon Says, and how well behaved you are, and how great your presentation was. I am so proud of you. Very well done. So at this point, we're going to take if that's okay with the board, we'll take a very brief intermission, because I know bedtimes are probably past at this point. So we'll recess very briefly. We'll allow you to leave. We have a fairly lengthy meeting, some great presentations. We're going to talk about Wi-Fi and the budget and some other wonderful policies of the board. So you're welcome to stay, but otherwise you can use the opportunity to depart. Have a great evening. Thank you.
We're ready? All right. Well, that was truly impressive. I love when the kids are here. They're incredible. That age group, they're so articulate. And they were extremely well behaved in the face of a fire drill that none of us expected and wasn't a fire drill. All right. We are going on to public comment. Anybody wishing to speak on agenda-related items? No? Okay. It is up to you, Dr. Hatter.
So we have two presentations this evening. This evening we'll be addressing some Wi-Fi upgrades that we have planned for the school district-wide, and we'll be continuing in our budget series. General support, employee benefits, and facilities are this evening's topic. So with that said, I'd like to invite our Director of Technology, Ms. Forsberg, to the podium so that she may speak to the board about some of the plans for wireless upgrades. And Ms. Forsberg, you can either go to the podium, or if you'd like to have a seat with us, you may do that. Either way is fine.
Okay. Good. Here. Thank you. All right. Good evening. Good evening, Dr. Hatter, Mrs. O'Shea, Mr. Cole, Mrs. Carbone, Mr. Magnani, and Board of Education trustees. Tonight I'm here to share information about our current wireless environment, about a brief history of the wireless, and looking ahead to the future. The district-wide wireless was implemented in 2009, so around 11 years ago. And then a few years later, in 2012, with the increased use of Chromebooks, as well as Google for Education, which is now G Suite, there were additional upgrades. At that time, we didn't have a full one-to-one in the district, but there were additional Chromebooks at the high school, and additional access points were installed in hallways, which I'll talk about in a moment. A few years later, in 2016, with the Smart Schools Bond upgrades, there were additional devices and an opportunity to upgrade again. So as you can see, every 3 to 4 years, there have been some upgrades here in the district. Most recently, the bandwidth has been updated and new firewall was installed recently as well. And now to the present. On this slide, I wanted to identify a few data points as to what our environment supports. So we currently have around 350 access points, mostly indoor, of course, but there are some outdoor, and that's across all schools. Around 4,000 internet users. So if you consider all of the students and staff and faculty, and then any guests that come into the district, there could be around 4,000 internet users in our district. There are around 6,000 estimated supported devices. So this goes beyond the Chromebooks. The Chromebooks 6 through 12, they do go home. 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade, they stay in the classrooms. And kindergarten, 1st, and 2nd grade, there are pods, or in the libraries, they share them. But devices go beyond the Chromebooks. So there are laptops, desktops, MacBooks, iPads, and iPods, which are students talked about with the Google Expeditions. They're using iPods to see that. So it's all different types of technology. It isn't just the Chromebooks, which is what we think of first. Also, some of our security cameras are wireless. Of course, the access points, and then the casting technology we've implemented recently with Apple TV, Chromebits. So when you see the presentations in the schools, that's wireless presentation. And Chromecast. We have a few wireless printers. So in total, it's around 6,000 devices. But that does also include our Ycsd technology with the drones that were here a couple weeks ago, and some of the robotics, taking those into consideration. And then any outside devices. So although we do not work on personal devices, we do have outside devices coming in, phones, high school students bringing in their own technology, teachers bringing in their own technology. So in total, it's estimated around 6,000. Then the last big number would be around 2 million sites visited monthly. That's usually Google. That's repetitive. I probably have a large chunk of that on the monthly sites. But there are a lot of sites visited monthly. So we do have a very, very active district on the internet. So a little overview of our current Wi-Fi coverage. So with our access points, or the APs, because of the different years of adding them, we have a mix of Wi-Fi 4 and Wi-Fi 5. Wi-Fi 6 has just been released recently, which is the future, which is where we want to go. The majority of our access points are between 3 and 7 years old. Some are a little older than 7. There's a few that are younger than 3 years. And when they were initially installed, it's hard to see here, but if you see the red, they were initially installed in hallways because we didn't have as many devices. So the idea was that the coverage would go into the classrooms with less devices, but now this is a picture of the high school. But now that we're more one-to-one with students and teachers, there's more devices in the room. So additional access points were installed in a checkerboard pattern, but we'd like to get to one-to-one, so they're in each of the classrooms. Some recent updates and upgrades this year. We have a new security layer on our firewall called Compromised Host Detection, which looks for possible malware, which is very important in 2020. We have a simplified guest Wi-Fi access, which has been helpful in evenings and weekends and just when our parents or community members come into the district. And I did see that we had 3 different internet filters, so I was able to merge them from 3 to 2 and save the district some money. Looking into the future, we would like to have less drops, less congestion relief. There's a lot of devices trying to access the APs, and advanced threat detection in 2020. I helped facilitate a Wi-Fi vendor selection process to review the different vendors. The steps are outlined here on the slide, which is a little hard to read. I realize the font is very small. Back in September through the fall, I contacted different vendors. They came in and presented. We chose a lot of local vendors. We chose our current one and others. They presented to us, gave quotes, and in consultation with Cabinet and Central Administration along the way, keeping everybody up to date in the winter. Currently, we did choose a vendor. I've also consulted with many local districts who've used the same vendor and who've done recent upgrades, and keeping everyone posted along the way. And moving forward between now and the summer, we would like to purchase the hardware and acquire the project management and get it installed before students come back in September. There are many factors that go into the purchase of new and updated wireless equipment with the budget planning. A big piece of it is cabling. So because we already have an infrastructure, 90% of it we estimate will be reused, but we will need additional cable and additional access points, both indoor and outdoor, and all of it updated. Also looking into a 3-year hardware warranty to keep us safe in case something would happen with the actual hardware. There will be other additional IT upgrades on the back end to support the new infrastructure, installation and labor, and looking into no recurring costs until the year 2023, 2024. And thank you. Just this is just a quick image of some of the technology that we support K-12, the wireless.
Thank you. Can we ask a few questions?
Sure.
I think Pete wants to ask a question.
So with 6,000 or so devices, 4,000 users, the vendor that you're looking at, do they, I mean, to me, that number is probably going to continue to increase as time goes on. Is there a ratio that goes for the number of users you anticipate to the access points that you need? Or is it just we're going to put one for one?
So the access points that we will have are supposed to allow between 60 and 90 devices to connect. Our current ones are 30 to 60, but they're not allowing all of them through. There's a lot of interference and congestion, but moving forward, they estimate 60 to 90 would be able to connect.
Anthony, do you have a question?
Actually, two. So when the recurring costs, 23 to 24, I don't exactly know what that means. Through 23 and 24, what happens after 24?
So it would be software recurring costs of approximately $20,000, which is about what we pay now anyway with our current licensing.
So it stops after 24?
So there would be no additional cost between now and 2023,
Between now
and then
and
starting.
24. Then it starts again in
Yes.
20. Oh, okay. I flipped that. And I would imagine. So when we upgrade all of these lines, that's for all of the schools?
Correct, all the
Right.
buildings.
And French Hill, that includes?
Yes.
Oh.
No.
Oh, no.
Oh, no?
Oh,
A couple access.
yeah, there's a couple there.
So,
Okay.
no, it's not the whole building, but what we have.
What we own, correct, yes.
Oh, okay.
Mike?
I guess, one of my questions would be typically with hardware in particular, by the time we implement something, it's usually outdated already. So what's this cycle going to look like going forward? Are we going to plan to, change things every 3 years? Like what's the game plan?
What we're hoping is 5 to 7 years to review, so not the short term. In the past, it's been every 3 to 4 years because technology is moving so quickly. So the prediction would be 5 to 7 years.
Rashmi?
So I'm just trying to pull up the slide. I think in one of them it said that there won't be any recurring costs until 2023, 24. But in addition to this one-time, investment, I mean, are we not incurring any recurring expenses now?
For the wireless, there is an annual charge for
Right.
the licensing. Moving forward with this, we would pay the one-time cost and then not have to pay again until 2023-24. And then there would be the recurring cost of approximately $25,000 for the licensing.
For the licensing, got it.
Yes.
Thank you.
Cheryl?
Yeah, I have a question first. Will we be able to do any testing ahead of time?
Yes, so we would be able to test 1 or 2 ahead of time, so the technicians can also review the console, and we do not plan on any disruptions. But yes, we can test prior to a full implementation.
Lisa?
Oh, I'm not on. I have 2 questions. The 2023-24, what is the significance of that date?
Just the way that the quotes are bundled, it's a 3-year, it's the hardware warranty, the installation's a one-time cost, the hardware is a one-time cost, the licensing is all bundled now, and then it starts up again in 2023-24.
And the upgrade process itself, that would start after school is out in June?
We could start sooner, but we don't want to do anything while school is in session. So there's some things that the technicians or the installation team can do ahead of time to not disrupt any learning. Once the full implementation would happen, they estimate around 2 to 3 weeks, and there would be a little bit of downtime, but I would know that ahead of time.
The downtime would occur during the summer
During the
months?
summer.
Okay.
Yes.
And it would be back up and running before school opens again?
Definitely.
Thanks.
I have 2 questions. I think one is for Tom, and that is this being bought off a state contract?
Jen was able to identify through Edutech a contract available on the New York State Office of General Services list of contracts, so we're going to be applying for that.
So we don't have to do any kind of municipal bidding on this?
No bidding, it doesn't qualify as a capital project, so there's nothing architects have to draw up, so it's actually working out very
that's
well
great.
in terms of all the variables we have to deal with, yes.
Okay. And then, Jen, I wanted to ask you a question. You talked about congestion on the network, which is why the access points don't hold as many devices that they're supposed to. How will these new access points address the congestion? And can you talk a little bit about the congestion?
The congestion currently, because there's there's 4 different types in any one building, so there's interference. So some of the devices can connect and then they might drop because as one's trying to connect to another, there's just a lot of interference, kind of using both words, interference and congestion. But by having a new upgraded system, they'll be able to hold more or attach to more devices without any interference or dropping.
So we'll all be on one Wi-Fi 6? There won't be...
Correct. There won't be the additional add-ons.
And do you expect that, like Pete was saying, now you say 6,000 devices, but, 5 years ago, we thought there were 300 devices. So in 3 years, are we going to have 6,000 or 9,000? Because that seems, and is this scalable in the sense that we'll be able to handle whatever we bring in? We're going very strong into technology.
Yes, we believe it is scalable. As far as Chromebooks go, we are saturated. We wouldn't have any additional. The only thing additional as far as devices, we do replace the Chromebooks, but we aren't buying additional. The newer technology would be some more iPads, but that isn't a one-to-one. Those are in just different pods or in different sections of mostly the elementary schools, a little bit at the high school. So I don't anticipate any additional large quantities of devices because currently we have as many personal devices as people would bring in now. But again, I can't predict the future, so there could be something out there I can't even predict, but currently we believe it is scalable.
Okay. Pete, did you want to say something? No? Okay. Anybody else?
No, thank you.
This is great. So the plan is to start, you're going to start purchasing the equipment now?
There'll be a transfer on the next agenda on the 24th, and once that's in place, we'll start purchasing.
That's awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you. That was absolutely terrific, very informative. At this point, I'm going to ask Mr. Cole to deliver the General Support Employee Benefits and Facilities presentation as part of our annual budget series. We'll also invite Mr. Verbois to sit up here with us as well.
Thank you, Dr. Hatter, and good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Tonight, we will provide the 4th public information session in our 7-part budget series. In the following slides, we will discuss the General Support and Employee Benefits section of the budget. The General Support section also includes the facilities operation. Board of Education section of the budget includes the office of the district clerk, as well as the mandated costs of the annual budget vote and elections. We continue to use the BOLD software system, an automated means of tracking and controlling the voter rolls. The cost of this software is captured through our Boces cooperative, rendering it subject to state aid in the subsequent year. These sections encompass the office of the superintendent and the entire financial operation of the school district. In the finance section, money is budgeted for the settlement of contracts across the breadth of the school district. Central administration and finance includes the equivalent of 9 employees, an increase of 1 employee over the prior year as we seek to return the entire payroll function back inside the school district. The payroll function has, for many years, been outsourced in part. You will see a significant reduction in the contractual section as a direct cost offset. The contractual cost section includes the cost of the fully integrated accounting system, Envision, the cost of our outsourced Medicaid services, educational data cooperative bidding services, outsourced independent asset management services, and the cost of IRS-compliant administration of the district's deferred compensation plan. 2 more areas related to finance that capture the cost of auditing both internal and external audits and the cost of the claims auditor, all of which are unfunded mandates. The cost of the Treasurer's Office and legal counsel services are also represented here. Human Resources is home to 3 employees. All of the costs associated with recruiting, benefits management, and employee relations are captured here. The contractual code reduction is offset in part by an increase in the corresponding Boces code for services captured through the cooperative. Documents digitization cost is eliminated in the next year as we continue with funds provided from a grant received in the prior year. The special items section of the budget is where we find liability insurance costs, the costs of Xerox workstations throughout the district, and some of the Boces-related administrative costs. Liability insurance costs remain unchanged. In the prior school year, after consultation with the board's fiscal advisory committee, adjustments were made to the insurance deductible structure, saving thousands of dollars in annual premiums. The resulting savings are more than adequate to offset premium inflation expected for the next year. We entered into a new lease agreement for the Xerox workstations in the 2018-19 school year. We will not have a change in the annual cost in 2021. Note the last 2 lines on this page are related to the Boces budget. We are part of the Boces consortium made up of 18 school districts in our region. These costs, administrative costs of the Boces operation and the Boces capital projects costs, are apportioned to each school district based on a formula that includes primarily assessed valuations in each district. Property tax refunds decrease as one of 2 properties that reside in both Yorktown and Chappaqua school districts no longer requires a direct reimbursement. The students have aged out at the public schools. In cases like these, where properties straddle 2 distinct district boundaries, the homeowners have the ability to elect the district they want their children to attend. So our collected taxes by law must be reimbursed, in this case, to the Chappaqua schools. We will move along now to discuss the facilities section of the budget. Just a brief summary of the school buildings under this umbrella. French Hill is still idled, but being leased out to 12 individual tenants. The school district's wrestling program is located in the building, and we retain a series of rooms for storage purposes. We currently generate revenue from tenants sufficient to maintain the buildings and grounds on that campus and provide a modest positive cash flow that reduces the tax rate. Total staffing in the facilities department will increase by 1 employee as we seek to hire an additional custodian for the French Hill facility. The cost of this new hire will be substantially offset by a corresponding reduction in the cost of management services at the facility. In general, French Hill is a cost-neutral facility to taxpayers as rental and common charge income is derived from tenants in the building. The operations of the physical plant section includes costs related to all staff salaries, heating and cooling, commodity costs, and all of the materials and supplies necessary to support operations. The cost of snow removal operations, providing access to outside community groups, and the oversight of the French Hill School building, idled since 2010, are also captured here. Note the $50,000 reduction to the French Hill property management costs, a direct offset to the requested 1.0 new custodian for the facility. The upkeep codes reflect the large amount of work we're now able to do with in-house labor in the form of carpentry, HVAC systems, plumbing, electrical work, and site projects. We also utilize outside contractors obtained through bids and requests for proposals to perform more in-depth work on heating and cooling systems. In total, the entire general support section of the budget increases by just over $68,000, or 0.76%. We will now discuss the benefits section of the budget. These costs are not allocated to the individual areas within the budget. In 2020-2021, the gross increase in total benefits costs will rise by more than $1.4 million, or more than a 7% increase year to year. The primary cost drivers are the pension system contributions, an unfunded mandate increase of more than $900,000. Without some mitigation of these increases, these two items, coupled with the estimated increase in health insurance costs, would consume more than 80% of our state allowable tax cap increase. With this in mind, we are asking the Board of Education to consider the following tax relief proposal. The district has established a reserve fund to help mitigate the rising cost of the pension system. We are asking you to consider contributing a total of $1 million, $500,000 from the Employee Retirement System Reserve and $500,000 from the Teachers Retirement Reserve to directly reduce the cost of these two items, providing tax relief as a result. By employing these available resources, we can lower the total rate of increase from just over $1.4 million to about $430,000, or a 2.2% increase. The fifth presentation in our budget series will take place on February 24th. At that time, we will review the required tax cap calculation, state aid, and the district's cash reserve status. At this point, we'll be more than happy to take any questions you have.
Thank you, Tom. Appreciate it. Lisa, do you have questions?
I do. I have two questions.
Sure.
One is going to be the obvious question about the $1 million you just mentioned.
Yes.
So that, if I understand what you were saying correctly, that is to offset increasing pension costs. Is that right?
That's correct.
So what happens if we don't authorize that?
Well, at this point, based on, and we'll talk about this in more depth when we go over the tax cap calculation, but if we don't do anything to reduce that cost, we will be over the cap, and we'll be looking to have to cut expenses someplace else.
So what is the impact to us of authorizing using the reserve here?
Well, we're again asking for $1 million in total, and by using both reserves for $500,000, both the ERS and TRS reserves, that will put us in compliance with the tax cap. And in conjunction with what we're going to be asking in a couple of weeks for another $600,000 from fund balance, we believe a total of $1.6 million in tax relief will help us to be able to comply with the tax cap, and we won't have to cut into any program.
My other question has to do with the custodian at French Hill. Is that custodian in addition to the staff that's already at French Hill?
It is. So we have a part-time, and I'll let Mr. Verbois talk about the current employee there, but it would be in addition to that. We have found that we believe that hiring an employee dedicated to the facility will provide us with greater coverage during the day, and in the aggregate be no less costly than the outsourcing we're doing now for about 3 or 4 hours a day of basic cleaning services. So in total, we think it's going to be a cost-neutral endeavor on our part, but yes, it will be in addition to the part-time person that's there currently.
So why all of a sudden do we need to have another full person?
In lieu of the cleaning service that's there. So we won't have the cleaning service contracted, we'll have the part-time individual, and this custodian would take the place of the cleaning service.
Because the district, even though we're not using it for school purposes, is still responsible for the maintenance of that building.
Correct.
All right, got it. Thank you.
Cheryl?
Regarding the business office, you had talked about a new position in the business office. Can you talk a little bit more about that and why now?
Sure. We currently outsource a portion of our payroll operation. We have one person dedicated to payroll in our district, and we spend about $50,000 a year to partially outsource payroll. Last year, we hired a new accountant who was able to provide supervisory rollover payroll, which is something we had been lacking in the past. We're looking to do away with the outsourcing, save the $50,000 that we're currently spending, and hire a new person that would straddle the business office and special education. The special education department is being completely overwhelmed by demand and can utilize some additional help. We believe a new hire in the business office who can help out with payroll and help out with special education purchase orders and contract reviews and things of that nature will provide us with a great deal of efficiencies.
Great, thank you.
You're welcome.
So I have a question, and maybe Lisa kind of asked part of the question. So this is on slide 9. So under property management for French Hill, looks like there is a reduction of 50,000.
Yes.
What is that offsetting?
So
or is it being
the
offset?
lion's share of that is what we pay for the cleaning services currently, which is about $20,000 per year, and then related materials that we have to supply for that cleaning service.
I see.
So, and then we also believe that we'll garner some efficiencies. Those efficiencies would include not having to pay additional what we pay now for the cleaning service we outsource to wax floors and things of that nature. So we'll be able to reduce our property management costs by that. And the incremental piece above that is that we have one less tenant going into next year that we did not replace. So we believe our costs will come down for that aspect as well.
Sure, thank you.
You're welcome.
So, Tom, one of the things that we've stressed over the years is making sure that we have money in the budget for maintenance of plant and, doing small projects on our own that we don't have to outsource. I see there's stuff in here for buildings and grounds, but is there a budget line for, small capital projects as well? How are we handling that this year?
There is. It's not in this facility section. It's in a line at the very bottom of the budget, which is a transfer to capital. There's $300,000 in it. Historically, we've been budgeting over the last 6 or 7 years between $300,000 and $500,000 in that line. And next year, we're allocating $300,000 to it. So when you get the final budget, that number will be in there.
Okay. We feel based on what needs to be done that we'll be able to get it done in that 300,000?
We'd love for it to be more, but the current budget environment, with it, the 2% tax cap calculation allows us a 1.8% increase. Our state aid, as you'll find in a couple of weeks, is only going up just over 1%. So most of the variables that are outside of our control are not moving in our favor. Of course, we'd love that number to be higher because it saves taxpayers money on interest, not having to borrow to do capital projects. And we are capable of doing small-scale capital projects. Mr. Verbois is a licensed engineer. Sometimes we can get things done with his drawings. So, yeah, we garner a lot of efficiencies out of that.
Okay, thank you.
Pete?
Tom, I noticed under the human resource, there's property tax refunds. And actually, in tonight's meeting, we're approving a refund for some tax certs. Do you anticipate next year it being equal, the same? Because I see what's budgeted for next year is almost at what we're allocating tonight.
Yes. So it's an excellent question. We do not budget for tax certiorari rewards, which is what you're referring to.
Yes.
Because the board, in its wisdom, has established a reserve for that. So we have $1.5 million in a tax certiorari reserve. We're going to access those monies to pay those settlements. These monies that you're seeing here in the budget represent, in this particular case, properties that share dual residencies between, their property splits two school districts. And in this particular case, those residents have decided to attend a public school that's not ours. So we're obligated to collect those taxes, and whatever we collect, we have to hand over to them. But we will access the reserve this evening, and it's an interesting piece because we're starting to see multi-year awards again for tax certiorari like we did a few years ago. It's been very quiet, but we expect to see tens and hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of awards in the coming months. So.
Okay. Anthony?
No, I'm good.
Tom, I have a question. When we talk about lowering the ERS and the TRS contribution by using fund balance, we have specific fund balance reserves that are there for those exact purposes. And we were fortunate last year that the state actually allowed us to have a TRS reserve. Can you talk a little bit about why they help us and how they help stabilize some of this?
Sure. We've been accessing the employee retirement reserve for a few years, which isn't even the biggest liability. The teacher's retirement system pension is our biggest liability. And only last year were we given legislative ability to be able to do that. And then they limited the amount of money we can put in each year. So this is the second year that we'll be able to put money in, but we're expecting to have to draw down on that because the increase this year was substantial. And it could have been even larger. But based on the increase in the contribution rate for employers is in a very large sense directly related to the health of stock market returns. So we've been helped by that, and otherwise the damage could have been even worse for us.
All right. And can I ask Dennis one question? You have a $25,000 reduction in equipment. Is there a specific reason we're buying less equipment, or is we usually always replacing things?
We're still doing that replacement. We just don't have a large ticket item in the budget for next year.
Okay. All right. Anybody else have questions? No? You good?
Thank you.
We're good. Thank you. Thank you, Dennis, for sticking around. Thank you, Sheila, for sticking around.
Thank you.
All right. What are we up to? Did you have anything else?
I do not.
All right. So we're up to a board action item. A motion to amend item 6.05 from the December 16, 2019 board meeting to correct the rate of pay for Section 3214 hearing officer Ron Longo from $200 per hour to $185 per hour.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Personnel. Upon recommendation of the superintendent, a motion that the following be approved. Under certified personnel, we have other compensation. We have the extra credits that go on and on. We have a resignation, and under classified personnel, we have a summer volunteer appointment.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay, business. And here are those tax certs, Pete. We have a motion to approve by order of the Supreme Court of the State of New York held in and for the County of Westchester on the 7th day of January 2020, a school tax refund in the amount of $21,846.71 is due to Taconic 202 Properties, LLC for the tax years 2017, 18, and 19.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? And by order of the Supreme Court of the State of New York, held in and for the County of Westchester on the 15th day of January 2020, a school tax refund in the amount of $14,253.37 is due to Tomanic Realty Corp., care of New York City, New City Diner for the tax years 2015 and 16.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Whereas the Board of Education has previously established a tax certiorari reserve fund for the payment of tax refunds pursuant to orders and judgments in tax certiorari proceedings known as a tax certiorari reserve fund. Be it resolved that the Board hereby appropriates and makes transfers from the tax certiorari reserve fund to the general fund in the amount of $36,100.08 for payments of the 1920 tax refunds.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Can I have a motion to approve the following contracts for health and welfare services provided to resident pupils attending non-public schools in other districts for the 1920 school year?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Be it resolved upon recommendation of the superintendent of schools, the Board of Education authorizes the board president to sign the hold harmless agreement with the Fresh Air Fund Sharp Reservation for Brookside Grade 3 students trip on March 17th and 18th, 2020.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? A motion to approve the following Yorktown Congress of Teachers professional improvement proposals and the Yorktown Congress of Teachers proposals for the CTA TAs.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Placements, a motion to arrange the following placements as of February 10, 2020.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion to approve the following contracts for the 1920 school year. I'm not going to read them. This is Beacon City School District, the Carmel Central School District, the Lakeland Central School District, and the Mayapack Central School District.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Be it resolved that the Board of Education does hereby approve the settlement and release agreement in regards to the student Alt 007007579, and further, be it further resolved that the Superintendent of Schools is authorized to execute such settlement and release agreement on behalf of the district.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? We have another PIP for the nurses. A motion to approve the following professional improvement plans for the nurses unit.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? We have gifts, grants, and donations. A motion to accept with gratitude the following gifts, grants, and donations. For Yorktown High School Athletics, we have 40 varsity lacrosse helmets by Cascade S from the Yorktown Lacrosse Booster Club alumni with a pre-budgeted cost of $500 to the district for helmet decals.
Got excited.
Love them decals.
Hey, whatever floats your boat. $16,840.80 from the Yorktown Huskers Club for airfare to Seattle, Washington for the varsity boys lacrosse team. $3,037.03 from the Yorktown Huskers Club for hotel accommodations and activities for the Pennsylvania trip for the varsity girls lacrosse team. And at Mohansick, $1,500 from the Mohansick PTA for an author's visit by Helen Lester.
So moved.
Second.
Go ahead.
Now, I'm not trying to kick a gift horse in the mouth, because any of our boosters that support our kids is phenomenal. But with regards to the Husker Club, the one thing I continue to see is an inequity of the amount of money that goes to boys programs versus girls programs. And I know we accept the money. I guess my question is, do we have a say in how the money gets allocated? Or, and maybe it's because the girls' programs don't ask for it as the boys' programs do, but I continue to just see an inequity in it. So, I don't know what I'm asking, but it just...
It's something we're definitely aware of with regard to the resources that are allocated to all of our teams. So across levels, across genders. In this case, the boys varsity lacrosse wears helmets. My understanding that the girls lacrosse teams have different equipment that they use. But certainly whatever it is that is needed for any of our teams, whether it's through the Huskers or through the district, our goal is for them to want for nothing. But your point's well taken with regard to donations.
So I guess, do we, do we get a say at what they, that was your question.
Well, no,
Is that your
it's
question?
not, to me, it's not a point of a say of how the money gets allocated. It's how I understand how it is a program will ask for the Husker Club that, hey, we're going away, we need $5,000 to do it. They'll say either yes or no. I think that's how it basically works.
Generally, what's happening in many instances is the monies are raised by the team, and the Huskers Club is issuing the check. They have the status that enables them to issue the check, so it's not necessarily Husker Club monies per se. They're raised by the teams, and they come through the Husker Club to the district.
So then what you're saying is the boys' programs raise more money typically than the girls' programs?
Or they're funded through donations more so than through the district budget. But we try to, whether it's the district budget or donations, we try to make sure that our teams have new uniforms, new equipment that they're using, and transportation facilities, field trip opportunities. So it's equitable in that regard. The funding source, it may be more fundraised on the boys' side of it. I haven't performed that analysis, so we can certainly look at that in terms of how it's distributed. But our teams, from the Husker Club perspective, they're ultimately collecting the monies that the teams are raising for their, whether it's helmets or whatever it is.
So then that does not have to follow any Title IX guidelines? Because the teams are raising it and bringing.
They're clubs, they're extra classroom clubs or athletic clubs that are fundraising and raising money. They're coming through a single entity. In terms of what the district is doing, we're certainly mindful of Title IX and the equitable disbursements of our resources. And I would say that we spend a very comparable amount on both sports, both from the number of teams and the number of coaches. In terms of the donations, there are restricted donations that come through. We're grateful to get them because it takes a great strain off of our budget, because my understanding is these helmets, I think, are about $250 a piece. So to accept 40 of them is a great thing. But in terms of looking at the equitable distribution, we'll certainly look at that.
Okay.
So,
Meeting adjourned, so moved.
Yeah, can we just close the meeting? Public comment, anybody wishing to speak? Can we have a motion to adjourn? Good night.
Second.